don't have a quorum yet, but there's no sense in not going already and having it heard. We'll call Senate Bill 533 up first. Chairman Strickland.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Well, hope you are as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for moving some good Judiciary Non-Civil bills over there.
Yes, sir. We've been busy, as you've seen.
Yes, sir. Tell us what you
Y'all.
got. Go ahead.
So 533, working off of LC 339669. And everybody wasn't in subcommittee, so I'll briefly review what the bill does. This comes at the request of the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. And we're dealing in the area of competency. This is where someone has been found not to be competent to stand trial, which means they don't have the ability to assist with their own defense, whether it be to represent themselves or counsel. And so under current law, DBHCD is tasked with restoration to get someone restored where they can face their charges. The problem we have is lack of bed space, lack of ability to, and resources to get folks out of our jails to be restored. And at our committee hearing yesterday, the day before, whatever it was, I was here last, I'm losing track of it. We had 636 people currently sitting on a wait list that are waiting to be restored so they can face their charges. All this bill is doing is allowing for jail-based restoration, where the department can go into jails with the permission of a local sheriff. It has to be done by an agreement, mutual agreement with a sheriff, and actually do those services in the facilities. This comes at a recommendation of Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Commission that was, in particular, the working group dealing with forensics that was led by Judge Gosselin in Hall County. I always want to give credit to the group that recommended this, and of course Commissioner Tanner, all the great things he's doing at the department. With that, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions anybody has. That's what the bill is trying to accomplish.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Any questions from members of the committee? All right, looks as if we have a quorum now, so.
I stalled long enough.
Anybody, yeah, that's right. Anybody signed up to speak for this? I know we had the sheet out there. Anybody that wanted to speak and didn't get a chance to sign up?
Patrick? Okay, that's good.
I mean, well,
You may want to say something.
best dressed in the whole place, so.
It's a good bill.
Okay, thank you. All right, that being said, what's the mind of the committee? Move to pass in a second. Any amendments? Seeing none. All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 533, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations. We'll get you, if you got a rules committee form, I'll sign that.
We have it actually here.
Gotcha.
Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. I believe you're carrying this for me in the House, I
Yes,
believe.
sir, that's
Thank
correct.
you. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. Good bill.
See you all soon.
All right. Let's see. Senate Bill 493. We got Floor Leader Hatchett. He's on his way. Okay. So we have Senate Bill 465. Chairman Russ Goodman.
465.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's okay.
Your whip was calling me.
Go ahead. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having me back.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for being here. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, you tell me. I know we had a pretty deliberative discussion last time that I was in front of your committee. How in depth would you like me to go with the bill? And
You know, I think I'd just tell them what your bill does, you know, as succinctly as you want to. I know many of them have heard it, and I appreciate y'all's testimony in subcommittee. I think you could tell in subcommittee. I mean, unless my subcommittee chair wants to give the committee report on this.
well, I will say, Representative Leverett, between solar amendments and fentanyl, our last few week has been pretty busy, hasn't it?
It has been.
Yeah.
We got to know each other real well.
That's exactly right.
Time I've got to spend.
Well, I appreciate you. So, Senate Bill 465, Austin's Law. It's a lieutenant governor's bill. How it came about, Gus and Beth Walters are long-term friends of mine. They're constituents as well. Their son, Austin, bought some Xanax that was laced with fentanyl, and he passed away. And Austin was not a drug addict. He had he suffered from depression and anxiety. He was actually one of the top salesmen for Ag Pro, a large John Deere dealership in the whole country. But that one pill killed him. And so Gus began emailing me January of 23, asking what we could do to increase the penalties for people that are selling fentanyl that results in the death of someone. I forwarded every one of those emails to the Lieutenant Governor and his General Counsel and his Chief of Staff, asking what can we do? What can we do to address this? And that's where really where Austin's Law came from. And what and we had discussion about this, Mr. Chairman, I guess it was 2 days ago. What Austin's Law does is it creates a new crime or a new class of crime. It's aggravated involuntary manslaughter. And this bill actually passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee unanimously. Then it passed out of the Senate with only 3 no votes. Worked with Whip Burchett. We made some additional changes. We tailored the bill down. Originally it was controlled substances. We tailored the bill down to fentanyl only. And then we took out delivery and distribution. And we had the sale and manufacture. And just to give y'all some context, last year there were 106,000 people that died from drug overdoses in the United States. Over 70% of them were attributed to fentanyl, 2,400 in the state of Georgia. And what we're finding is these people currently they're able to hide behind, in cases of death, I didn't know it had fentanyl in it. And as I stated here 2 days ago, knowing how bad the fentanyl epidemic is in this country, and knowing that over 70% of those deaths are attributed to fentanyl, these folks are able to hide behind that. That's the purpose of this law. I hope this law is going to save lives. I believe it will, but the deterrence is not working. I'd be glad to take any questions about this legislation. I'm not an attorney. I'm a farmer. That's why I'm a lot better off talking with Representative Leverett about soil amendments than I am law. But I think Whip Burchett came in, and Whip Burchett, he's not only my personal attorney back home and one of my best friends, but he actually helped with all this language. I think Whip Burchett, are you in the ring here? Or no? I thought I saw him outside the door there a minute ago. But myself and the Lieutenant Governor's office and Whip Burchett, we worked out the compromise language that is in this bill currently. And I'll be glad to take any questions if y'all, I know Austin's parents are here. If y'all would like to hear any more from Miss Beth, said that she would like to speak, but I know that I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know it's getting late in the year as far as legislation.
Thank you. And Miss Beth, we'll call you up here shortly. Just make sure there's no questions from members of the committee. I want to thank the bill author for taking this on. I know we had a very robust discussion. I think from the subcommittee discussion that we did have, all of us wanted to make sure that we put those who deal with this deadly poison away for as long as we can, and to make sure that the deterrent is there. To not only get those off the streets that deal it, but to also send a message to those who would think about it. So I want to thank y'all for that. Got number 13, Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be sure that there's nothing in here about the death penalty that we talked at length the other day.
There's not. I don't know if you recall, but we withdrew that amendment.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the author of the bill? Okay, thank you. Ms. Beth, if you want to come on up.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I want to thank you kindly for this opportunity just to speak quickly. I will keep this very brief. I have no notes in front of me. I just wanted to share a moment of my heart. On September the 8th, there was a rainbow over the house that I raised my family in, and that neighborhood was called Happyville. It was the sweetest little place. All of us that went to high school and college together, we all went to the same church together. We raised our family in that neighborhood. It was a situation where kids got on a bicycle and you didn't come home till the street lights came on. We don't have that anymore. And I'm praying that this law will give the opportunity for other parents not to have to sit before you today and experience what we have experienced. That rainbow that came over my house the morning of September the 8th, we don't live in that neighborhood anymore. My best friend sent me a picture of it. And she said, look at this beautiful rainbow over your old home. And I immediately reminisced with all the memories that we had of our kids riding bicycles and just having the best time of their lives. And then suddenly I got a chill, and it came across my body, and it shook me. And I felt something dreadful was about to happen. It was only 5 hours later that we got that call that our child was desperate, not holding on, not probably going to make it. And as Gus told some of you in the subcommittee, that was a frightful time because we were in the middle of COVID, and it was a no-visit hospital, and we couldn't get in to go see, even if he made it there from Brunswick to Jacksonville. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon the following day when we got that horrible news. And I can't change what happened to my son, but I hope that I can change what might happen to someone else's son. Fentanyl is deadly. It is not being policed. It's not being looked after. We've got to change something. We've got to do something to protect our children and our grandchildren and the future of Georgia. People are dying at an unprecedented rate because of this horrible poison that is on the streets. And I just know that I have a voice. I'm going to close by telling you that life is an echo. And I want Austin's law, Bill 465, to be an echo that will continue for years and years to come to save lives. I want my son's memory to maybe save one of your children's lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Mr. James Woodall. James, I know most of us know you, but just for the chance that somebody forgot, just tell us who you with. And
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is James Woodall, and I'm a policy associate at the Southern Center for Human Rights. And before I begin, I want to just make mention that our prayers are with Austin's family, because we know all too well the feeling of grief and sadness that accompanies the loss of a loved one, particularly a son or daughter. It is not lost on us that we are here discussing ways in which we can improve our public safety. And I also like to thank Senator Goodman for bringing this legislation, and he's my newfound friend after the Coke situation, so I thank you. But we do rise actually in opposition to this legislation for a number of reasons, and we're not in opposition to doing something about the fentanyl crisis, because we recognize that it is, in fact, taking a lot of lives. Our position, though, is that this law won't actually save lives. Unfortunately, we've seen how laws that have been used to address the drug crisis, not just fentanyl, but drugs more in the broader context, have not actually saved lives. In fact, we've seen increases of drug usage, even within the incarceral settings of prisons. And unfortunately, what this bill contemplates is making involuntary manslaughter an aggravated offense, sending someone to prison for not less than 10 to no more than 30 years or life imprisonment. And though we appreciate the whip's work in really tailoring this down, the concern is the people that we're intending to help may very well still be, unfortunately, captured in this legislation. So a person that's going through addiction, now granted, the manufacturing context, we acknowledge that has been properly brought down, but the selling, or the sale rather, of the fentanyl still needs to be worked on a little bit to clarify if this is a commercial sale. Is it just someone who gives a friend $5, $10 for this already illegal substance. The last thing I'll say is we have to recognize that this is not the response to this crisis cannot be punitive. If we are to truly save lives, which I believe the intent of both the author and the members of this committee is, we have to use public health means to solve this crisis. And that means that the recommendations that we saw in the subcommittee, whether it's the testing strips or having people give them the opportunity to understand what it is they're actually taking, even though, again, the substances they are taking are already illegal. And so for them to possess and partake in. So I'd urge this committee to just consider that perspective of, unfortunately, this bill will not save lives. It will just simply exacerbate an already deadly situation in our position. And the reason why we have that position is because we've seen it in other instances already. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll pause for any questions. If not, I'll yield.
Number 4, Vice Chairman Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Woodall, on page 3, line 60, the pill press provisions, your opposition or input on the bill doesn't have anything to do with the pill press provision, right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We have we recognize that was brought in subcommittee. We don't have any thoughts on that.
I mean, there's no reason why any law-abiding person needs a pill press. It's those folks who are not pharmacists, not authorized to be making pills, who are lacing fentanyl and putting it in there. And this is a step towards getting that off our streets. And you have no opposition to that, right?
That is the current law, that they should not be, manufacturing pills that has or doesn't have fentanyl in it, because again, they are not, licensed to do so. And so the current law as it states, and we believe that, prosecutors, I know there's a little conversation about what's already happening in practice in relation to the felony murder and all the other portions of the code. But we don't have any position on the new language on the pill press. That's correct.
And pill presses are the tool that is used to make these pills that have the fentanyl in it. And the current law doesn't address that particular tool right now, does it?
To our knowledge, it does not. So I'll yield on that one.
Representative Kendrick, we've got another spot over there beside Representative Gullett. If you want to, we don't want you sitting on the side. All right. See no more questions, thank you. All right. Senator Goodman, you want to come up and have a last word?
Well, I'm just glad that I'm glad that, as I call him, I'm glad Brother James is back, because I do have an attorney here with me. Being a farmer and coming in front of a bunch of attorneys is a little bit of a scary proposition. But I do appreciate the kindness that y'all have showed to me. Y'all, I don't want to waste anybody's time. We have debated this. I think everyone on the committee knows how I feel about it. We've had testimony from parents. I know, Whit Brachette, you and I talked last night. You were on the phone for 2 hours with someone in our community whose husband died from fentanyl. It's everywhere. I'll be glad to answer any question that I can to my ability, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Got one over there, number 3, Representative Neal.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you to the author. I did have one question. I know this topic has come up before, and we've had some testimony about the ability to determine fentanyl being the sole reason for a death. I'm just curious. I'm not sure if we've actually worked through that to determine if that can be determined. I can't remember where we left off there.
I believe, and so it's when in the language that you'll see in the bill, it's when fentanyl is a contributing factor in the death, and
contributing versus sole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Because that's a medical examiner's determination. There again, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think. I mean, that's.
So the medical examiner, they testified. There's like when it's like a cocktail, it's hard to determine which is which, but I think, because it does say sole cause or contributed on line 24. But I think, I guess depending on the will of the committee addressing that or not, or just leaving it to the discretion of the medical examiner at this point.
Yes, would you please? Thanks. Yeah.
Chairman Leverett, which one are you over there?
Chairman.
Yeah, thank
Go
you.
ahead, Chairman Leverett.
I just, again, I do not have extensive criminal experience. Well, personally, I don't have criminal experience, but I also don't have experience representing people in criminal court. But my understanding is those are terms of art, and a point I think the chairman has made in here is we need to let the court and the justice system work its process through, and I think this would be something. When you say it's the cause or contributing cause, those are terms of art that imply certain, that invoke certain common law, case-made rules, and it would be developed, I think, within the facts of each case, whether it was a cause or contributing cause or not a cause. I think the DAs know that, and that would lead to would go into play in their charging decision, and then would also be something they would still have the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. So my thought was, based on comments the chairman has made before, we don't really want to over-define that so that we create some new standard that wouldn't, so that all the well-developed case law on that and the custom and practice in criminal courts would not be applicable. That was just my thought, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, Mr. Chairman, would you like to address that? Do you want to tell for any members that aren't here who you are? And
with the chairman's permission, I'd
Go
be
ahead.
happy to. I'm Herb Cranford. I'm the district attorney in the Coweta Judicial Circuit, and my office is assisted in working on this issue. And coincidentally, I'll just mention quickly. Unfortunately, yesterday I met with two parents who had two children die from fentanyl overdose from taking drugs at totally different times that had fentanyl in it, and they didn't know. So it's a major issue we're dealing with. But yeah, I think what Representative Leverett said is right. And legally, I think with a death, we're typically required to prove that the criminal act was the proximate cause of death. And I think this language is not inconsistent with that. And the state would still have to prove its burden beyond a reasonable doubt according to the criminal laws of Georgia. And I think this statute, again, doesn't contradict that and is consistent with the state of Georgia law.
All right, and we're lightening up. By the way, thank you. Embrace the common law. Let it flow through you. It's just something that we need to be mindful of. Number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
and thank you to the author for bringing the bill, and thanks for being willing to work with the House and Chairman Tyler Paul Smith and getting after the actions that we are seeking to get after. And I appreciate your passion for this. Appreciate the families coming and talking about their very tough situation. Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, I'll hold that in thought real quick. Number 12. Chairman Silcox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question on a couple of things. Number one, I know that the GBI has testified before this committee before that there are a lot of situations, to Jasmine Representative Neal's question, that there is a cocktail of a lot of different substances, fentanyl just being one of those. But in your estimation, do you think that the common law, since we're talking about the common law, would cover that you would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that fentanyl was the number one cause? It wasn't just all these other drugs mixed together.
I don't know the law would require us to prove that fentanyl was the number one cause, but that it was a proximate cause of the death, and that's a legal
term
of art. But yeah,
definitely.
I don't have concern about the factual scenario you gave of there being a cocktail and this statute not being able to address it.
And then just a quick follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Just in the definition of selling on line 25, do you think that it's possible, because I know a lot of times I've actually, heard this from my son when he was in college, that sometimes these things were just passed around, and it wasn't a situation with selling. It was just these things were passed around amongst friends, and nobody was selling this. They were just giving it away, friend to friend, and then somebody got killed. And so my question would be, would you have to prove they were selling?
That's the reason we took out delivery and distribution.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Before I forget, I want to recognize Judge John Morris, who just walked in. Thank you, Your Honor, for being here with us today. I guess you're the designated survivor here with us today. Thank you for being with us. Always welcome. Thank you again. Number 5, Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also don't practice criminal law, but I was just curious, the definition of selling, is there a definition of selling in other parts of the code, and are they consistent? The words added later date kind of struck me as interesting. What if you hand money and drugs at the same time? I just didn't know if it was consistent with if that's where it came from, or
Which line are you on?
26 and 27, I guess, yeah. I know we try to be careful not to redefine something, so I just wondered if anyone had looked at that.
Yeah, my understanding of this, interpretation of this, I guess, is selling contemplates the contemporaneous exchange of the drug and money, but they're making a point to say it's not just you have to give money at the exact moment the drug is being exchanged. It includes that exchange with an agreement, whether it's express or implied, that, hey dealer, if you give me the drug today, I'll pay you, in 3 hours. But we would have to prove there's a commercial transaction occurring. It's not distribution, or delivery. There's got to be an exchange of money. That's what's being contemplated.
There's some kind of currency that's being exchanged.
Yeah.
Go ahead, follow up.
Okay. Well, that didn't answer my original question, is selling defined somewhere else in our drug codes, and are they consistent?
Sale is in the controlled substances statute. My understanding is, for purposes of proving this, we would, in this subsection, we'd be operating with this definition of selling.
Okay.
But I don't think it's inconsistent.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll see if I can. I think it'd be 161330B.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert Smith with PAC, I believe, wants to throw a 21.
And it doesn't define sale, it defines distribute.
Defines distribute. Okay. All right. While we're doing a little research over there, number 16, Mr. Whip.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to the definition. As I read the definition, Mr. Chairman, selling means to deliver goods for something of value, so dollars, trading of baseball cards, or anything of value. But then it contemplates also a scenario where the sale is a transfer of something with a promise for a later date of money.
And I guess just bear with me, Mr. Whip. I'm going to do a little reasoning here together in the very Aristotle vein of the understanding. The language there, as you read it in 35, and it says, and shall include. That doesn't necessarily mean the opposite, that it shall not include. It doesn't limit. Would you say that language there means that it includes that, but it doesn't exclude something else that could come to mind?
I have the same reading as what you're indicating there, is that it shall include the distributing of goods. So in other words, you can make a sale, a direct sale with an exchange of currency or something of value. And then secondarily, it contemplates the option of an exchange of the drug and then a later exchange of dollars or money.
Okay. So if Senator Menendez wanted to use some of them gold bars he allegedly got to pay for it, that'd be covered under here.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I've looked at, as Mr. Smith said, there is no definition of sale under the Controlled Substances Statute, but that word says, that word is in 161330B.
Okay. All right.
Sale is, that's right, yeah.
All right. Number 3, Representative Neal.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I just want to clarify a comment earlier. I've been advised that the language in this current bill is consistent with the GBI crime lab language that's pre-existing, and that they're okay with this.
Thank you for that enlightenment. We do appreciate that. Number 4, Vice Chairman Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, does the pill press provision, does that have any origins here in the House?
Yes, sir, it does. It does, but I thought it was a fine amendment, and I think that I was honored that y'all put it on the bill, and I think, honestly, that Gus and Beth Walters were glad to see it on the bill. I think it was a good amendment and a good addition to the bill, and I appreciate it being on there.
And
I hope it'll help us pass this out of the committee.
And that was Representative McCollum, who's an EMT and has seen these situations and thinks this is something that can help stop those situations from happening with fentanyl. Thank you for adding it on.
Thank you.
And if members will remember, Representative McCollum has had legislation trying to accomplish this as well. We appreciate his efforts. He was probably the first that brought to mind of this committee this issue. Chairman Silcox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for the whip. So when you were looking, Mr. Whip, so if you were looking at that definition, it sounds like that you're trying to say that this is not just a casual situation, that it's a commercial. It's definitely it's a commercial transaction. Because it's something for value, like you said.
Well, I think it's more about just the exchange of a drug for something of value. I don't know if there's a definition of commercial.
Yeah, I don't either.
That I want to,
I guess I just don't want to hit
explore.
I don't want to hit an innocent person.
Well, so we've done a significant amount of work on this bill to make sure not to hit innocent folks, and particularly where you have 2 people smoking a marijuana joint laced with fentanyl, and one of them dies, and there's no exchange of value. They're sharing a cigarette, a marijuana cigarette. And so that was something that I was uncomfortable with, and the author was kind enough to allow us to exempt from this. And so I get what you're after. My thought is that we've got a provision here that allows the facts of the case to drive both the sentencing of the case, and I think that I trust our judiciary to take into account the facts of a case. So we talked last night at length about a scenario where if there was an exchange for value of a pill, and the seller only is not like a known drug dealer, has never sold drugs before, then that would come in as character evidence, so to be considered by both the district attorney when they're prosecuting, and also the judge when they are sentencing, if they are indeed sentenced and under this provision. So there's no perfect way to just aim directly at exactly who we're after, but we're after those folks that are selling and repetitively selling, and they are manufacturing, because the testimony that I've gotten was that last night a lady told me her husband bought a Percocet, I think. It was a fake Percocet. Her husband died. The guy that sold it to him was a friend of his high school friend for years. Now, I don't know how much of a friend he is after his passing, he continued to sell. Continued to sell. That is who we're after, who know, and we have to take away the provision of the knowingly, because they can hide behind that. It's such a hard thing to prove.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
understand.
I mean, I think we've got a good balance here of what we're after, and trying to make sure that we accept these folks that we're not after. And so that's what I sought to do, and I think that's what the senator is seeking to do. And that's the best I can give you.
Thank you.
Okay, so no more questions. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
All right. Before we vote, I want to thank Mr. Gus and Miss Beth Walters. This is tough to even be able to live with, much less come up here in front of all of us and testify. And I appreciate that more than you know. Sorry for the loss, and you're in continued prayers, because that doesn't go away. And so we appreciate y'all very much. Okay. Committee discussed it pretty thoroughly, but I won't cut off any other discussion if anybody has anything else to add. Number 8, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Goodman, for your bill. Thank you to the families who have come out and shared their stories with us. I will say this, I do appreciate all the work that the Senator has done and the whip has done to try to narrowly target this bill to get at the folks that we want to get at, and those are the folks who are the most culpable, the ones who are making these drugs and selling these drugs. Certainly, I think the addition of the pill press portion pairs very well with this, and there's no good reason to have a pill press unless you are, in fact, manufacturing pills and illicit substances if you're not licensed to, or if that's not part of your profession. The only thing I will say is, while I do believe that there is room in our code for some clarity and some emphasis on the dangerousness of fentanyl and why it is different and why we need to do something different, I do want us not to stop here. I do want us to think about the problem of drug addiction and mental illness and depression and anxiety and people who self-treat these things, and how we can figure out a combination of tools to combat this crisis in our communities. Some of us have seen this crisis before, and we very well know that you cannot arrest and incarcerate yourself out of this problem without treating the underlying driving force. And so my only comments today for our discussion is I appreciate this tool. It is not perfect, but not much that we do down here is. But I also want to just encourage my colleagues to also think outside of the punitive box when we're talking about drug addiction and death by overdose and suicide. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Whitbread.
This is the last time I'm going to speak, but to my friend, I'm committed to finding different solutions, as evidenced by the fact that we voted on several bills that would make available Narcan to folks via vending sort of machines. And so I am definitely committed to helping my friends seek out some solutions outside of this. You have the carrot and the stick approach. This is the stick, and I won't shy away from that. But right now there's a gap that folks are able to get through, and I feel like this is closing that gap. But I'm certainly willing, and I think this body's willing to explore other options. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Number 4, Vice Chairman Reeves.
Mr. Chairman, while we're on that subject, just to add, this doesn't take passing both houses and the governor, but a group of high school students fighting drugs in Gwinnett, Council on Youth Anti-Drug, their message to kids in my area is one pill can kill. Don't touch the pills unless it's in a bottle from a doctor and a pharmacist. So just want to pass that on to get everybody the message.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Whip, you had a motion? All right, move do pass. Do I hear a second? All right, move do pass a second. Hearing no amendments. All those in favor of the passage of the bill say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, it passes. Senator Goodman, or Chairman Goodman, who will be carrying this for you? Whip Burchett? Outstanding. If you got a rules form, if you got a rules form, y'all use those over there in the Senate? Rules, R-U-L-E-S. Of all the people in this committee or in this place that could hear me. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I do think that you and I probably have to, we should be at least in the top 1 percentile of the most southern accents.
I agree. That just shows you the dialect does change a little bit north of I-20. Thank you. Next bill up and last bill up, Senate Bill 493. Floor Leader Hatchett. Good to have you back. Has this got anything to do with catalytic converters?
No catalytic converters today, Mr. Chairman. But this is a good bill. This bill addresses an issue that we're seeing where technology kind of outpaces the criminal code. It deals with individuals who are on the registered sex offender list and kind of put some guidelines as to what they can and cannot do with cameras and cameras on drones or unmanned vehicles. This bill would make it a crime to use a drone to photograph someone without their consent in an area where they obviously don't have an expectation of privacy by a registered sex offender. And it would also allow a judge to make it a condition of probation to prevent a registered sex offender from owning or operating a drone, period. But that would be left up to the discretion of a judge.
That's why we like it short and sweet.
I can tell from the last bill.
I believe everything went smoothly for the most part in subcommittee. My subcommittee chairman's telling me that. Number 3, Representative Neal.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you for the bill. I did have a question, and I'm only trying to get through everything. I want to be clear about how narrow is this, because I know we've had some complaints from like the jail systems of people having drones and using those to drop off stuff to the jails. Does this cover that, or it says? I'm trying to see how far does this go?
I think that'd be contraband.
Contraband. Yes. How far does this go?
So this only limits the use of drones by registered sex offenders.
Registered sex offender. Okay. Okay, I'm clear. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? All right. What's the will of the committee? I got a move to pass in a second. Yes, Representative Gulp, my friend from Paulding County.
Thank you, Chairman. Represent some of Paulding County. I'd like to make an amendment to the bill.
Okay.
I'll pass it along. Just take one to passage. While they're passing it, I'll just explain it. Yeah, yeah.
Handed one.
So, in this committee, we passed HB 425. It passed out of subcommittee and out of full committee, and didn't make it out of rules. But what I'm looking to do is amend Section 2 from HB 425 that passed, and that was LC 481226S. That's what Section 2 is. This was what I'm passing out to here. So what I'm moving is a little bit about the bill. This is related to sex offender registry. This is a SORB language that changes the way that people who are out of state get removed off their sex offender registry, as well as adjusts those in-state to be removed from the sex offender registry. It'd be 10 years for out-of-state after they've been removed from the state that they were added to the registry, and then in state it would be 5 years after they've completed their sentence before they can be removed from the registry as a tier 1. Tier 2 and tier 3 can never be removed from the registry. So again, that passed out of the committee, out of this committee, and that's what I'm asking to make that as the new Section 3, and Section 3 of 493 becomes Section 4.
Okay. And before I go to any questions real quick, just bear with me, committee. The author of the bill, Floor Leader Hatchett, are you okay? Do you perceive this as a friendly amendment?
I think it's a neutral amendment, obviously. I don't think it's adverse to the bill at all, and would just defer to the will of the committee.
So you're gonna be Switzerland on this?
I'm going to be Switzerland on
Okay,
this.
all right,
Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. All right, I will add that I think there was something that I'm trying to remember on 425, the author of 425, my friend from Paulding County. There was something concerning about people moving out of state.
Right, actually moving in state.
Or moving in state,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Georgia,
So-
we're a sex offender tourism state, unfortunately.
Right.
And so this is a bill to address that, and this is what SORB came and testified to a number of times, asking for us to do.
Sources of mine over at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation did make mention.
So this
that
doesn't include that section in there.
Okay.
This is only Section 2.
Okay, understood.
Their problem was with Section 1.
Gotcha. Okay. Number 4, Vice Chairman Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Gullett, we had a lot of good bills right before crossover day. Was this one of those that got to them right before crossover day? And
Right, yeah, it just didn't.
No problems with Section 2 other than timing.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, seeing no other question, or, yes, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Representative Gullett, I know that the SORB people had some issue with parts of the bill, and then we went back and we did some. So this reflects their concerns
Yes.
about the. Okay, so this is not the bill that they had the issues with because they thought it might.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And you would purport to put this at the end of the bill?
Section 3, I
Okay.
would say move Section 3 in the current bill to Section 4 and add this to Section 3.
All right. We have great legislative counsel in Miss Holly Carter, so I'm sure she'll get you straightened out on all that. Okay.
Yep, and for Holly, this is LC 481226S, Section 2 that we're adding to that portion.
Okay. All right. You've heard the amendment. What say you, the committee? Got a move and a second. All those in favor of the Gullett amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, Gullett amendments. On any other amendments? Seeing none, I'll call the question with the Gullett amendment. All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 493 with the Gullett amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Mr. Floor Leader. You're on the rules. Get me a form and I'll sign it.
Thank you
With
very
that,
much.
we are